My, my. What a terrible Sunday. My, what a terrible day. At the office, look at this to see Brendan Rodgers. Brendan Rodgers came out 5 minutes before. If you haven't seen the full video, I will link to the Sun-Soaked Heathens video YouTube channel. I will put that in the description. I'll put it in the first comment also so that you can click on that to see the full video. You see Brendan Rodgers pacing up and down the touchline 5 minutes before the rest of the team come out. Now, put this into perspective. Brendan Rodgers has also been fined, and Celtic have been fined this season for Brendan Rodgers keeping the players in late as he had discussions with the players. Nothing's came out, nothing's been leaked, but you can let it be sure that it looks like Brendan Rodgers has went in, had his say with some certain players at Celtic and the team as a whole, and then left the dressing room and discussed. And he's also fired a transfer warning over the bows of a lot of players in that Celtic team. I put in the video last night and I was asking which players do you think he was talking about. For me, one, when you look at the comments online, what does Rio Hatate have to do to get taken off that pitch? What does Rio Hatate have to do to get taken off the pitch? Jeffrey Sloop was taken off the pitch at half-time. Nico Kuhn, there's a discussion goal with Nico Kuhn. Has Nico Kuhn's eyes been turned with the talk of Newcastle? Has Newcastle approached his agent, and does he think he'll be off in the summer? Whilst the Rangers fans might have thought there had been some kind of meltdown yesterday, there was no meltdown because, let's face it, we're still going to win the league, and we're winning the league by a number of points. It's a different situation where you're putting pressure on players and you're wanting players to perform at the highest level to entertain fans and win the league in style. Brendan Rodgers spoke about it over his time here. He's had teams where they've just coasted to the league. They've went on a rampant run after, and is it the fact that this year that we haven't had the winter shutdown, which allowed Brendan Rodgers to take the team away, and there was that really busy period? Or is it the fact that some of these players are just thinking it's far too easy, this Scottish League? You know, we just turn up and we win every week. They sit back and we battle through. 3-5-2 yesterday was so effective for St Mirren. Let's hats off to that. People know that I would rather Celtic play two strikers up front. Their big man Tane, his first header, you've seen what could happen. In the second header, he gets a goal from it. I think that flooding the midfield the way they did was a fantastic move by the St Mirren manager. I'll talk about the tactical side of the game before we go on about Celtic. And I think that going back into the flat back five and then the players in front, and if you notice them, they were positioned really, really well. I'm going to give St Johnstone their credit for this because every time there was a gap in between the back line, there was a player diagonally in front. So it was almost impossible for Celtic to make any through balls. It's then up to us to get past that. Is it exciting? Does it make it look Scottish football look good? No, it doesn't. It makes for a boring game, but it is what it is in Scottish football, and you're starting to see it a little bit more and more in other leagues as well. Just to put that out there. Brendan Rodgers went on to say that he was angry. He's trying to keep control of it. Poor start to the game. It's not the first time in the last couple of weeks it's been a poor start. Doesn't matter what he seems to tell the players in training. They seem to be up to speed in training. They seem to be all enthusiastic. And when it comes to the game time, they're not just doing the one-touch pass that they were doing at the beginning of the season. And that's a bit of a concern to Brendan Rodgers. He says something that we will look at certainly in the summer. It's mentality. He's now talking about bringing players in the summer that will have to have the winning mentality. No longer are Celtic just going to bring in players because they're cheap and because they have the potential to come on and be superstars and be a Matt O'Reilly, be a Jota and get sold for 25 million. You have to have a certain type of player that has a bit of dig about him, about a player that knows when times are going tough and that has that winning mentality. Let's face it, that has the winning mentality to be able to get you over the line. It's all fine and dandy going into the Champions League and being underdogs and getting a cracking result and saying, "Fuck, we're brilliant. They're absolutely brilliant. It's only the SPFL. Rangers are shite. If they get their act in gear and get a decent manager in the summer." We've been saying that for 12 years, haven't we? So let's not dwell on that lot. But anyway, Brendan Rodgers said, it's a group that has mental strength, but I've been in teams, especially up here, where you've just got to power the way through the season, right to the very end. Where you've got to go out and you've just got to smash teams and you've got to control games and you've got to take control of their narrative and you've got to win the game and you've got to want to win the league. But under then, you had Brendan Rodgers in charge and you had Scott Brown in the midfield. Are we lacking a Scott Brown type player? I've said for a long time, yes. I wish Brendan would change the system and go for a 4-4-2. For instance, even a 3-5-2. A 3-5-2 in the Scottish League is more than enough. Big Mark Norowski got dropped out the team yesterday, but Brendan went on to say, he says, look, you can be comfortable. You become a bit timid. Comfortable and being comfortable, you need to be outside your comfort zone at Celtic. You start to lose duels. You start to lose the fight, Nico Kuhn. You can never be that if you want to be a top player. You want to go at the top of the game. Hence the reason that Nico Kuhn's probably been never made it at some of the bigger clubs around Europe that he's been at. He says if you want to be a top player, collectively, it's everyone's annoyance. Collectively, I've got to take the blame as well. I've got to take blame for not being able to motivate the player. It's easily done. You can go into a game and you can look for an easy game. Top against bottom, they've got players that are right on it from the first minute, that are wanting to make a go for it. They've got something to fight for. So we've got a league and you've got your positions in a cup final to fight for. If the players don't see that, and I've said this for a long time, there are far too many players in the team. Greg Taylor being one over the years, he's had no competition. And it's not really, it's no surprise that when Greg Taylor has been told that he's going to have some competition for game time in his position, he up sticks and fucks off from Celtic. I'm just putting that out there. And Brendan Rodgers did say that he'd like a smaller squad. I've went on about this before. You've got 6 players that are out on loan, 6 first-team players. Would Lewis Palma made a difference in that game yesterday? I was just waiting for the shouts of that online. But when you see Brendan Rodgers walking up and down the side of the pitch 5 minutes before half-time, it is a telling situation that the manager has just went in, said what he's had to say, not giving the players any room for to return a comment or reply, and then just walked out and discussed and left John Kennedy and Co to do their job and Callum McGregor to get the players motivated. And people will say, well, what about Carmack? He was shite yesterday. I said this many a time. Callum McGregor came through the ranks as a Celtic player, the same as James Forrest, and they always had real good players, real good competition in and around them. Callum McGregor is now that older player and he doesn't have the more experienced and better players around him. I've got to say, the amount of shots that Rio Hatate had yesterday, I don't know what's going on in that boy's mind. I mean, the one that hit the post, you're thinking, right, fair enough. But the other ones were absolutely ridiculous. Arne Engels doesn't look as if he's up for a physical side of the game. He can come in with a great price tag and he can come in with all the plaudits that you can get. But Scottish football, you've got to be in for the rough and tumble and in for the long term. Arameda did okay when he came on, I thought. I'd love to see Brendan go to a 2 up front. I just think that it makes so much more sense in the Scottish League. And I make no bones about it. I mean, Brendan Rodgers likes to play the style that he does when you've got the 4-3-3, but when you've got a 3-5-2, you know, it just floods that midfield. We've seen it done in European football terms. You flood the midfield and you stop Celtic playing. You know, Rio Hatate and Arne Engels, they seem to be all over the pitch. That all comes down to Brendan Rodgers. But ultimately, the players aren't doing what they're paid to do. The players aren't doing what they were doing at the beginning of the season. They're not doing what they were doing at the beginning of the season. They're not doing the one-touch pass. Go watch any game at the start of the season, the start of the Champions League campaign. We got off to a flyer, one-touch pass, fast-attacking football. We're taking far too long on the ball now. We're slowing it down. We're having a look. It's not instinctive enough. And that's the players on the pitch. Brendan Rodgers can't say, fuck, he can shout at the sideline, fucking what you doing? Hurry the fuck up. But players just don't seem to be interested. Brendan Rodgers says that he'll look at it. Brendan Rodgers also questioned the mentality after the dismal display. The victory yesterday would have set up an absolute cracker of a game. This now gives a headache to the SFA and the SPFL, which I'm glad about, because usually the second game after the split is the Sevco game, and it could be that could be the game that we could become champions. With them dropping points at the weekends, it was all set up for a Celtic win yesterday. All they had to do was go out and win, and then go back to Celtic Park next week with 60,000 fans sitting against Kilmarnock. Kilmarnock, who are down at the good side of the table as far as some of us are concerned. The way that we start games has not been ideal for a long time. We've all seen it. Ever since we dropped out of the Champions League, unable to get past Bayern Munich, we haven't been playing at our best. But worrying about certain individuals, and they seem to be in a comfort zone. They seem to be in a position where they know they're not going to get dropped. Brendan Rodgers wanted a smaller squad. I did say that comes with a warning. With a smaller squad, you've got players that are automatic picks, and they're not scared of losing their place to the bench because they know that the guy on the bench isn't as good as them, and they're maybe only going to get 10-15 minutes at the end of the game. Smaller squad hasn't worked, Brendan. It's up to Brendan and the board to sort things out this summer to make us even better going into the Champions League. Brendan Rodgers spoke about that on many occasions this season, saying that he wants to progress the team. This team will not progress in the Champions League. I think you can take Rio Hatate out. I've said all season Rio Hatate will be one player that will be away this summer. You could say that Jeffrey Sloop isn't the answer. He was just in a bomb scare yesterday. He was a nightmare. You can't come into Celtic and have one or two good games. I mean, anybody could really look better than Greg Taylor at times. Greg Taylor's been a fantastic player and he made a big difference coming out of the game yesterday. But first signing Kieran Tierney coming back and he's like, I'm not signing a contract at Celtic. Fuck that. I'm not going to sit a bit on the bench. I'm far too good for that, allegedly. Anyway, if you want to be a top player, you need to play better, says Brendan Rodgers. The fact that Celtic did lose another game at a time of the season where it's a bit, unfamiliar for Celtic fans. Okay, it's 16 points, you can look at it, but it's been too many times. We've got a fantastic group of players, Brendan Rodgers said, good guys, who this year have been very, very good. But I don't like what I see. And it's me. Is it just me, or has it happened too many times, said Brendan. He knows what a Celtic team going for the title should look like. He knows what a Celtic team that is motivated to win the title. We need a Lustig. We need a Scott Brown. We need a Jamesy Forrest that is in form and hitting the back of the net. I thought Jamesy Forrest was going to do it yesterday. He was unlucky. That comes with game time. We need someone better in the midfield for Callum McGregor to play further forward. There's nobody in the team that can take over Callum's position in the whole midfield player. And don't come on and say, Callum was shite yesterday. Look back to the games where Callum McGregor wasn't in the team and we were even worse then. We need big game players, big game Charlies to come in, people that are motivated, the mentality of a player that wants to win. Do we have that within our team? Do we have that within the B team? I think it's time that Brendan Rodgers started giving some of these younger players game time, especially in the run-in, because there's going to be players that are playing in the team just now that will not be here. The real reason that Mark Norowski was dropped, according to some people, is when you look at the league table, we're sitting on 78 points. Played 31, we've won 25, drawn 3, lost 3. That's title winning form, you've got to say. We've scored 92 goals, 20 against, the difference of 72. 92 goals. Can we hit the 100 goals? We're not going to hit 100 points, I don't think. Rangers, the Sevco are on 65. Hibernian, what a season Hibernian have had. Hats off to Hibernian, by the way. Hats off. Hibernian that were down the bottom half of the table. I mean, crazy Hibernian. Down the bottom half of the table for about half the season. It was ranked rotten. They were bottom. And it was a fight between them and Hibs, who people thought would maybe go down. But they've got themselves up into third position. Aberdeen have completely imploded ever since the Christmas, and they've just let the league get away from them. And it's good to see that St Mirren are in seventh. It's bad side up. Hearts have jumped up in sixth place. And then down the bottom of the league, you've got St Johnstone. Anyway, it doesn't look like Kilmarnock are going to get relegated. What a shame. Oh, damn. Anyway, Austin Trusty came on the game yesterday. Mark had been given his time, which was rare. Trusty returned. Rodgers didn't waste any time making the call. He preferred a left-footed centre-half. That was it. That's what he says. I prefer a left-footed centre-half. That's the only reason that he played in front of Mark Borowski. It makes you wonder sometimes. You can understand, yes, you like the left side of the centre-back, but I think there's big changes where it's not a video where I think that it's overly worrying. It was a bad day at the office, but it's happening too many times for Brendan and the fans. People say it's Brendan that does the side-to-side passing stuff and he wants the players to do this. Brendan also got the plaudits at the beginning of the season for the fast one-touch football. As fans, we could bemoan the fact in losing the game that we don't like, but at the same time, it's not all down to the manager. You know, I think it was down to the manager. As I said online yesterday, that everything was down to the manager, that he didn't manage to motivate the players. But when you've got players whose mentality, as Brendan said, and this was before I seen the fact that he had walked out 5 minutes before half time, it's interesting that he's not happy with some of the players. And maybe he knows that some of the players are going to be away this summer. He'll know that some players are thinking it's far too easy in the Scottish League, and they think that their pay grade above it. They think that it's easy in the Scottish League. We turn up, the team sit back, we try and break them down, and then that's it. We win the game, we win the league. But you've got to prove, you've got to want to win. And I think that's what was missing out of too many of the players yesterday. Anyway, on that note, have an absolutely fantastic day. We're still top of the league and we're still going to win the league in 2 games' time. So any zombies out there, you know, at least we're not in your shoes. And for the rest that are chasing, it is what it is. Have a fantastic day, Celtic fans, wherever you are, all around the world.
Mentality. It's a group that has mental strength. But I've been in teams, and especially up here, where you just power your way through the season, right to the very end. And there's maybe a few that are comfortable. And comfort is not a physical place. When you're comfortable, you become a bit timid, and you lose duels, and you lose the fight. And you can never be that. And you can never be that if you want to be a top player. So collectively, that's the annoyance. You know, it's easily done. You can go into the game and look for an easy game, top v bottom. But the very best players are right on it from minute one. And I'm not talking here about boys like Callum McGregor, who deals with expectation, he deals with being the underdog in the Champions League, and guys like that. But there's absolutely no doubt we, around some of our starts, we have some players going in looking for an easy game, and that's what we need to look at.